Raider Nation? My name is Mitchell Renz. Y'all are watching the Raiders Report. And coming up here on today's show, I'm going to give you a Raiders-Cardinals Week 3 preseason preview. If you're wondering, Mitch, what the heck should I watch for from a silver and black standpoint? I'm going to tell you, guys to watch on offense, guys to watch on defense. What are the top position battles to keep a close eye on? Now, I'll say this. Pete's made it a little bit difficult on me because Pete's saying, hey, anybody can go out there and play. That's the compete mentality. And if y'all are trying to compete on Saturday, I hope that you pull up to the Raiders Report. We have been the #1 most watched Raiders watch party for game day. I'm going to say 7 straight flipping years doing this thing. We had over 100,000 people watch last week. We had over 100,000 people watch the week 1. And if I'm trying to get to 100,000 again, I'm going to need the whole nation to combine. So hit that subscribe button. Make sure those notifications are turned on. And make sure you pull up to the Raiders Report on game day because we're going to be going live 2 hours before kickoff. It's going to be a late night. And I hope that you celebrate that late night with us here. So how we're going to do this is we're going to go through position by position. Typically what we've been doing here on this program during our previews. And I'm going to start at the quarterback position. And the quarterback position, obviously if Geno Smith's out there, your eyes should be on him. He was a lot better last week, I thought, in terms of just getting some extra reps in there. 6 of 8, missed 2 deep shots to Dante Thornton Jr. But in all honesty, all eyes are going to be on Aidan O'Connell. And all eyes are going to be on Cam Miller and that quarterback battle because AOC's got to play better. And Aidan knows it. He needs to play faster. He's got to get the plays in. Pete Carroll wants to see him potentially even use his legs from time to time. But 3 interceptions this preseason, not great. Cam Miller does have a shot to be able to take this team's job. And for AOC, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. The completion percentage somewhere around 62%. But it's been a uphill battle for Aidan. And it's been one of these battles that I didn't think that the quarterback 2 battle was going to get as close as what it has. And luckily for Aidan, Cam Miller didn't play great this past week. Now, I also love that Cam was trying to get the ball down the field. They were trying to go out there and win a game. And in a preseason game, that's what you should try to do. And for the Raiders' standpoint, you're going to see a lot of AOC, and you're going to see a lot of Cam Miller. And clearly the Raiders are showing you that they are trying to evaluate what exactly they have with this new offense with Chip Kelly, and they're going to throw out AOC a bunch. Is Geno going to play? I don't necessarily know. If it was up to me, I personally wouldn't put Geno out there in that final preseason game, but if you're going to put certain starters out there like a Dante Thornton Jr., it might make more sense to get your starting quarterback out there for 1 series. Give him a series. Maybe you give him 2. We'll see what ends up happening, though. Let's go to the running back room next up here on the show, and this is going to be one where Jeanty got a lot of work last week. I thought he looked good, was putting dudes into the ground. Not 100% sure how much opportunity he's going to get in this game, but if he does get opportunities, he's probably the #1 player that everyone's going to be watching, and it's that physicality. How does he look in the backfield? How does he look as a pass protector? Is he able to go down the field? Do they try to put the ball in his hand maybe in a screen game, in the flat? There is a lot of different ways to get him involved, but to me, I sit back and I look here at Raheem Mostert, a Chris Collier, a Zamir White, Sincere McCormick, a Dylan Laube, and there are a lot of question marks of who can make this team because I'll be transparent. I think the only running back that is a lock to make this Raiders team is Ashton Jeanty. I can make an argument of why the team can move on from Raheem Mostert. I can make an argument of why the team can move on from Zamir White, Sincere McCormick, Dylan Laube, Chris Collier. They are all fighting for a roster spot. And what's interesting is the Raiders, Chris Collier has kind of been the main back. 13 carries, 68 yards, that 5.2 yards per carry. Dylan Laube, I saw somebody on social media call him a lock to make the roster, which I'm not going to lie, does surprise me a little bit. From a Raheem Mostert standpoint, he's somebody that I want to see them use him in the passing game a little bit more. Sincere McCormick hasn't been great. Zamir White hasn't been great either, but the Raiders are going to keep 4 running backs on this roster. Ashton Jeanty is going to be one. Zamir White and Raheem Mostert have been listed as the RB2, but I almost wonder if Zamir White's getting put at RB2 is a little bit of trade bait. But the running back room is going to be fun. How these guys pass protect, though, how these guys look in the passing game overall, I do think is going to be the ultimate tiebreaker of who gets those final Raiders running back roster spots. Let's go to the wide receiver room next up here on the show, and the receiving room is another one where I don't know if we're going to see Jakobi Meyers out there. And if it was up to me, Jakobi Meyers, I trust him. He's going to do right, and he is a little bit frustrated right now with contract talks, and I don't know if we're going to see him out there. Tre Tucker, another guy. Not 100% sure if he's going to play, but if they're out there, all eyes are going to be on them. In terms of your rookies, Dante Thornton Jr., I would want to see him play in this game because he's been somebody that they're trying to get the chemistry down between Geno and Dante in terms of stretching the football out there. Tommy Mellott, I'll be very clear, not a lock to make the roster. And I am somebody where I'm a little bit of a sicko. I'm not going to lie. And Tommy, I hope you don't get mad at me for saying this. But, I messaged Tommy on Instagram, and I noticed that Tommy Mellott unfollowed me on IG. I also noticed that Tommy Mellott unfollowed basically every single Raiders content creator out there. And that I sit back and I go, well, that's kind of interesting. And I asked Mellott, like, hey, man, what's going on? Hope there's no hard feelings. And he told me he's trying to, take concentration off of the background noise. And I understand that I am that background noise. But I also understand that from a fan standpoint, if you're drafted in the 6th round, you're expected to make this roster. And I do expect Tommy Mellott to make this roster, but he is far, and I mean far, far from a lock to make this squad. How does Jack Bech look out there? And then your next slot of wide receivers are the Alex Bachmans, Colin Johnson, Philip Dorsett. Marquez Callaway was getting some hype earlier this offseason. And then one player that I'm really rooting for to make the practice squad, don't really see how he makes this team, is Cedric Jackson, who right now does lead the Raiders preseason with 104 receiving yards, 7 targets, 7 receptions, 1 touchdown. And he's looked pretty damn good. And I know I'm not the only Raiders fan that has set up here and it's fun to root for guys in the preseason. And this is going to be another player that I am absolutely positively rooting for, and he's going to be fighting for a practice squad spot. So out of all the positions for the Las Vegas Raiders, which group? And that's how I want to look at it. I want to look at it from a group standpoint. Which group has the most to prove up against the Arizona Cardinals? This is going to be our pinned comment. If you're a silver and black fan, you're a Raider fan, if you got a pulse, you're about to get over the YouTube ad break. Scroll on down. Give me your answer to this one. If we're talking about sole position group, I'm talking probably about the corners. If I can branch in secondary and I can just put everybody together in the secondary, that's what I'm going to be looking at. And if the Raiders secondary plays the way that I'm hoping that they play, and I'm looking at the live comments right now, there's a lot of cornerbacks, there's a lot of linebackers down there. This team needs to show everybody that we can cover. I think we're confident in our ability to, pop some guys, but we got to be able to show teams that we can cover as well. And I'm really going to be looking at that. Let's go to the next position group here. It's going to be tight end, and Brock Bowers, Michael Mayer, a little bit of a coin flip there, whether or not they're going to play. I will say this. Brock Bowers, I don't need to see him. And anytime you get an opportunity to watch 89, and also huge shout out to Brock, who got named in the NFL's top 100 of the 24th best player in the NFL. Not only is it a huge accomplishment, the number 24 is a Raiders legendary number. Michael Mayer, I've been impressed by what I've seen from him. To me, though, at the tight end position, one player you really got to watch is Ian Thomas, the tight end 3. And I really thought that he was going to be a lock to be tight end 3. He's been bad in the preseason. He's had drop issues. He's been missing blocks. He's been missing assignments. And that's the biggest job for the tight end 3 on the Las Vegas Raiders. Do your job. And he's got to be able to go out there and do his job. From Albert O to Justin Shorter, Quadir Ishmael, there's some versatility in there for Shorter, Ishmael. One guy, though, that I'm really rooting for is Carter Runyon, a UDFA. And I say that because, you look at the numbers up on screen there, 5 catches, 62 yards on 7 targets. And if Aidan O'Connell doesn't completely miss Carter Runyon on a seam route down the middle of the field, Runyon's got another 6 catches for probably close to 100 yards and a touchdown. And he is a good athlete. And he's been a player that I've been rooting for, small school guy out of Townsend. But I do think that the tight end 3 battle is probably still up for grabs between Albert O and Ian Thomas. But if Thomas has another bad game, if you're this Raiders organization, you got to sit back and you got to go, do we believe in competing? And if the answer to that is yes, Ian Thomas hasn't been the 3rd best tight end on this team. That's a cold hard fact. Let's go to the offensive line. And let's be honest. Out of all the positions here, I know that you're a real one. I know that you're a sicko. And I mean that in the most respectful way possible. When you watch the offensive line, you should be looking at JPJ. You should be looking at Alex Kappa. Absolutely that battle going on at right guard, but I would put all starting 5 guys out there. And I say that because we need more continuity. We need more chemistry. And I think that that's a big part of one of the problems that I have with, I'm all for competition. But we got to be able to trust the guy to our right. We got to be able to trust the guy to our left. And our offensive line looks like we don't trust many people at times. And I don't want that to try to kind of translate and trickle off once the season gets going. In terms of our rookies, Caleb Rogers, Charles Grant. I know that Charles Grant's got some upside, and my lowest graded Raiders rookie draft pick was Caleb Rogers in round 3. And he just simply looks like a player that should have been drafted on day 3. And I want to see more out of him. In terms of Alaki Tassi, he's looked pretty damn good for only recently picking up football. Thayer Munford, got to be better, no doubt about it. Dalton Wagner has been somebody. When him and Tassi are on that right side of the offensive line, they look a lot better. And there's a few players that I think are fighting for some roster spots here, but the number one dude I'm watching for on the offensive line, what does JPJ look like? What does Alex Cappa look like? And is this right guard battle legitimate? Because I really, really hope the Raiders are smart enough to not put Alex Cappa over Jackson Powers Johnson, or else I'm just going to lose a lot of faith in what the hell we're doing. Coming up next here on the show, let's get into players to watch, what to watch for exactly on the defensive side of the football. Before I get into that, though, huge shout out to today's sponsor, Prize Picks. And I love me some Prize Picks, and I think that y'all will too. And because this episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, preseason football is underway and college football is here. So don't miss any of the action this season on Prize Picks. Prize Picks is simple to play. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. If you get your picks right, you can cash in and win up to 2,000 times your money. If you're wondering what my picks are, I can show them here to you in a second, because I do think Prize Picks is the best way to win real money this football season. Which players are going off, which ones aren't. Make your picks in less than 60 seconds to turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on Prize Picks. My sports opinions tell me that I'm going to turn $20 into $370 if Geno Smith, Ashton Jeanty, Brock Bowers, Max Crosby all get those mores. And then look at Joe Burrow down there. More as well. I am really, really counting on this Raiders team to be able to get me some money. But you know what? I'm confident that it's going to be able to happen. And if you're confident in your picks as well, then please get started with Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That is code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. I'm going to be running my game all season long with them, and I hope that you join Jeremy Chuggs and I as well. So here we go. Defensive side of the football, what to watch for at defensive end. If 98's out there, watch him, because he's box office, baby. In terms of everybody else, see that guy by the name of Malcolm Kuntz? He better be out there on the field. And it's somebody that needs to be better, because I don't think that he is a top 4 off defensive lineman on this team right now. His hand usage is good. His, I think, ability to read defenses, it's good. You can see that it's there. His first step is not there right now. He is slow. His get off, his acceleration, and I understand that he's coming back from that injury, but we invested $12 million, essentially a guaranteed 1-year prove-it deal. He's got to be better. I have more confidence in Tyree Wilson right now than I do Malcolm Kuntz. And I want to see, how does Tyree look? Because Tyree's been the second best defensive tackle this offseason. I think that Tyree is showing you that it's starting to click and it's starting to develop. And he's starting to, go out there and react and play like he's not thinking all the time. And for as athletically gifted as he is, I want to see that still go. Now, if the Raiders are like, hey, we don't play Tyree Wilson, I think that shows you how confident they are in him. But for a young man like a Ja Joyner, a UDFA, fighting for a spot, an Andre Carter fighting for a spot, those are going to be players where this might be one of their last opportunities to put on a Raiders uniform. And with the Charles Snowden suspension looming, the Raiders have to know that there is a possibility that he's going to get a 3-game suspension. And if he does end up getting a 3-game suspension and you plan on putting Tyree Wilson in at defensive tackle, that's going to be one of those things where that's got to be a position that we pay attention to, because if the rumors are true that we're interested in an edge rusher like Trey Hendrickson, maybe they already know that something's going to be happening. Let's go to defensive tackle here for the Las Vegas Raiders. And Adam Butler is somebody that I would like to be able to give a little bit of a rest to, give some time off. In terms of our 2 rookies, Tonka Hemingway, J.J. Pegues. Pegues was one of the big winners from last preseason game, and you saw some of that early on development. Thomas Booker, does he continuously get reps? Johnu Lalu, is Leki Fotu going to be playing? Because for Fotu, he hasn't been able to get out there in a preseason game. He's been in a walking boot. He's been unhealthy. But Fotu was signed this offseason to be a replacement for Christian Wilkins, and I hope that he gets that opportunity to showcase some of the talent that I thought was good enough to potentially make a 53-man roster. But for John Lalu, Zach Carter, that to me is your next group to watch. They are expected. Lalu's expected to make this team. Zach Carter's probably the one guy on the roster bubble a little bit. But if this is a team that wants to rotate defensive tackles, lot of looking. You got to expect more out of that defensive tackle group. They played a lot better, and they've been looking better. But I want to continue to see it. Let's go to the linebacker room here, and I'll just say this. Show me that you can cover. I know that Landon Roberts can pop guys. I know that Jamal Adams is an absolute heat-seeking missile. I know that Devin White can get to point A to point B in the ground game. But I need to see that our linebackers can cover, and that is by far the number one thing that I'm looking at for all these linebackers, because quite frankly, Tommy Eichenberg got to be a better guy in terms of being able to stop the run, in terms of being able to drop back into coverage. Jalen Smith is somebody that does deserve some credit, because I was actually surprised when I turned on the film how much better I thought Jalen Smith looked compared to what my initial thought process of him was. Matt Jones, a UDFA, fighting for a spot. It's tough to watch because he gets picked apart a lot in the passing game, and you see it from time to time. Amari Gaynor, y'all know how I feel about him. He's somebody that can go sideline to sideline. Doesn't really look like he's getting many opportunities. Michael Barrett had a really, really big play last week. This linebacker room, gotta show me that they can cover. And if they do, I'm going to feel a lot better about it. Before we get into some more positions here of who exactly we can watch, I want to know from everybody, where are you watching from? Shout out your city. I'm right now located in Dallas, Texas. I grew up in the 570. Shout out to Danville, Pennsylvania. If you're watching the Little League World Series, I grew up probably like 40 minutes down the road from Williamsport. If you ever get an opportunity, if you got kids, take kids to Williamsport. It's like Disney for baseball. All the different cultures, it's absolutely incredible. If anybody out there lives near, I don't know, maybe like Glendale, maybe like Phoenix, maybe Tucson, Arizona. I'm going to actually be out in Tucson, Arizona on Friday. And for some of y'all, you're probably going to watch this on Friday. Hey, come out, get some drinks with me. I'm going to be out there, Tucson, Arizona. The address is here. It's called Desert Shark Tucson. And if anybody wants more information on some of the giveaways, some of the prizes, who's going to be there, follow and DM them on Instagram at Desert Shark Tucson. You might even be able to get a better opportunity to get a Raiders Report hat, because I'm going to be taking out a bunch of them based on how crazy and how many bangs we got on today's show. But that's the logo. It's owned and operated by a diehard Raiders fan, and I'm super, super excited to be able to get out there. So if you live near Tucson, Arizona, if you were shouting out your city, I'm seeing a bunch of people, which Darth just said from Pennsylvania, 570. Shout out to the 570. Let's go to the cornerback room next up here for the Las Vegas Raiders. And, put down your pen and paper. Get ready to buckle up, Buttercup, because cornerback room is going to be dissected high and low by every single fan, because we want to see more out of this room. Eric Stokes is no doubt your cornerback one, but there's a legit battle going on between Darian Porter and Kai Blue Kelly for that cornerback 2 spot. And I was wondering if Kelly was going to play. He did end up practicing on Thursday, which is a good indication that he will be able to go for the Las Vegas Raiders. Darian Porter, though, he has, let's be transparent, really struggled. And he has really, really struggled this preseason. He's been better in practice. He still shows that he gives you value in special teams. But, he's really struggled in the preseason. He looks like a player that's only learned how to play corner for 1 year, needs to get some more reps. You can see the athletic ability is there, but it kind of reminds me a little bit like Jacorian Bennett when he was a rookie. And I know the Raiders just traded him away. Porter's thinking, as soon as he is able to go out there and be an athlete and react, he's going to be really special. But you name a corner, you should watch him. Darnay Holmes, Greedy Vance, doesn't matter who it is. Secondary needs to be watched, which takes us to our next position here, the safety room. And the safety room has got to be another position where, strong safety, free safety. I would say out of all the safeties, the guy that I'm the most confident in is Jeremy Chin. He's been the highest graded PFF defender for the Las Vegas Raiders. He had a nice interception last week. But besides him, everybody else, in my opinion, has got to play. Now, you're not going to see a Harper. You're not going to see Lonnie Johnson Jr. out there. They're both banged up, and based on what I've heard, they're both probably going to end up being on the short-term IR to start the season. But from a Chris Smith, from a Terrell Edmonds standpoint, hell, even a Hudson Clark. Hudson Clark, I actually thought looked pretty damn good in limited fashion this past week against the 49ers, and he's going to get a lot of special teams rep. For Tre Taylor, somebody who was drafted in the 7th round last season, this might be his last game ever as a Raider. And quite frankly, I would say that there is a 25% chance that he makes this team. And I'll sit back and I go, can somebody have a Tyreek McAllister game? And some of you might be like, what the hell does that mean? Tyreek McAllister was a player that was on the roster bubble, had an amazing third preseason game, and ended up making the squad. For a guy like Tre Taylor, he needs to have an outstanding game to make this team, because based on the information that I'm getting, it is Jeremy Chin, Isaiah Paul-Lamal, Terrell Edmonds, Chris Smith. Right now, those are your 4 safeties, and then there's a big tier gap, and then there is Tre Taylor. And then once Lonnie Johnson Jr. comes back, and once Thomas Harper come back, then it's probably goodbye Chris Smith, and then we're going to reevaluate this roster from top to bottom, where Harper might be somebody that steals a cornerback job spot due to his ability to play in the nickel and drop back to safety. Let's now go to special teams here, and A.J. Cole, should always watch him. Daniel Carlson, I believe he is 8 of 10 this preseason for field goals, which is pretty crazy. He's already had 10 field goal attempts. He was 5 for 5 this past week, or maybe he was 4 for 4. Maybe that's what it is. He's like either 7 of 9 or 8 of 10. Somebody fact check me. But Tommy Mellott, he's got to show more confidence in the special teams game. But for dudes like Bachman, Sincere McCormick, Laube, hell, even Zamir White's been getting more kick return opportunities. If these players want to make this squad, I don't think it has to do with what they do at receiver. I don't think it has to do with what they do at running back. It probably has more to do with way that they can contribute to this team on special teams. So every kickoff return, every punt return, look to see who's catching the football, look to see what they're doing with it, and see who's playing in the quarters. Because obviously the earlier they play, probably the higher they are up on that depth chart. And I'm really, really going to be looking at what our team evaluates from a kick return, punt return standpoint. So before I get out of here again, I'm going to be live 2 hours before kickoff, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific. If you're a Raiders fan, hit that subscribe button. If you're not going to the game, send this link to a bunch of fans and tell them there's one place and one place only to watch the Raiders game on the internet. And that's here at the Raiders Report. I promise you this, we're going to get close to 100,000 people watching. 100,000 people, Oakland style. It's going to be a lot of fun. If you bleed silver and black, I expect to see you here on the Raiders Report.